What is going on, everybody? Welcome back here today to episode 24 now of the Just Ballin' podcast. My name is Matthew, guys, and we are continuing our NBA positional player rankings. We are now on power forward. Today, the last three episodes of the podcast have been point guard, shooting guard, and small forward, and now we are doing the forgotten position in the NBA teams, or just kind of the weakest position. But when you look at this, there's a lot of good power forwards in the NBA that are at least listed as power forwards. So obviously, this will be the fourth installment of the player rankings. The next one will be the centers, and then we'll get to the top 30 player rankings in the NBA, and that will definitely be a fun one. So yeah, I do have 30 power forwards today in 5 tiers. Tier 1 does have 2 players, Tier 2 has 2 players, Tier 3 has 8 players, Tier 4 has 8 players, and then Tier 5 has 10 players. So yeah, if you guys are enjoying these, I really appreciate the support if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. And I think these are definitely fun to do weekly to kind of get us over the hump with no basketball, because we at least have next week, we'll have the center rankings, then the player rankings after that, and then we'll get into some probably new ideas if basketball isn't back then, and it's definitely not going to be back in 2 weeks. So we'll figure that out. So yeah, today we are ranking our top 30 power forwards. Now I kind of did this based off what Basketball Reference has, what I believe what position they play, and what ESPN/NBA.com has. So yeah, guys, if I didn't mention them in the power forwards, they're probably in the small forward video, and if they're a little bit on the taller end or more towards the center side, they'll be in the center video. So yeah, I do have 30 small power forwards today. This might have been the toughest one for me once I got to the end. Tier 5, man, it was hard because I have like 10 honorable mentions that I'm like, you can kind of have a debate or just good reasoning for having them as a top 30 power forward. So like always, if they're in the same tier, they are interchangeable. If they are in different tiers but kind of one spot behind each other, then it's okay. So yeah, we're gonna go into this. This was really tough, and I don't even know if I feel comfortable about my own list, because there's just players that we'll get to that just felt like they were just so hard to rank. Either they were hurt, they didn't play a little bit, or they've just been inconsistent in their career. So number 1 was very easy, and I decided to put him, I was going to put him in his own tier, but I thought the player behind him isn't too far behind him to put him in a different tier. So tier 1, number 1 overall power forward is Giannis Antetokounmpo. This one was fairly easy. He's arguably the best player in the NBA. He's going to be a 2-time MVP award winner if they do give out awards this year, which they definitely should. And he will definitely be the MVP this year. He's probably had a better season this year than last year. He's a top 3 defensive player in the league, and he arguably should have been defensive player of the year last year and maybe this year as well. He's the best regular season player in the NBA. He's been the best player in the NBA for the last 2 seasons. Playoffs, different story. Yes, he hasn't gone to the finals yet, but he did go to the Eastern Conference Finals last year and was 2 games away from going to the finals. And this year, it was looking like the Bucks were the team to beat in the Eastern Conference, and Giannis is just an incredible player on both ends. So it's really just like not much to talk about. You guys know what Giannis is, so I'm not going to go into it too much. And the player that I also put in the same tier as him, I did classify him as a power forward, and that is Anthony Davis. So Anthony Davis, I thought, is another top 10 player in the NBA. So I thought it wouldn't be too fair to maybe bump him into his own tier, because I would have had him in tier 2 by himself and then bumped everybody else down a tier. But I decided to put him in the same tier as Giannis. He's definitely not as good as Giannis, but he's still an elite NBA player. He's still a top 10 player in the NBA. He's a supermax player. He can probably be the best player on a championship team. Maybe that's a debate, because we really didn't see that at all in New Orleans. But he's a great NBA player on both ends. He might be the defensive player of the year this year. He's a great shot blocker. He's a really good post scorer. He's a great post defender. He's a really good pick and roll man. He's phenomenal. He has a pretty solid mid-range for his height, and his three-point shooting isn't that bad. So my tier 1, number 1 is Giannis Antetokounmpo, and number 2 is Anthony Davis. So now we're moving on to my tier 2, which I have 2 players in. So number 3, the first player in tier 2 is Pascal Siakam. Pascal Siakam might win most improved player for the second year in a row. I don't think he will, but honestly, he should be in the conversation. From what he has been 2 years ago, when he probably wasn't even a top 50 power forward in the NBA, he is now the 3rd best power forward in my eyes, as he is 25 years old. He's coming off a 23.5 point season where he did shoot 36 from 3. He's an incredible defender. He's good in transition for his height. He's literally a perfect stretch 4 at 6'9". He can obviously shoot, defend, score, play, make, pass. He averages about 3.5 assists a night, and he's just kind of what you want in a power forward, and he's still getting better at age 25. It would be amazing if he was maybe 2 years younger, but he was a little bit older coming out of New Mexico State. So he does come in at number 3, and I think that's perfectly fine. I don't think you can really have him any higher. Obviously, he's not better than Giannis or AD. Any lower, I don't think I would have anybody lower above him. So I think 3 is a perfect spot for him. All right, so moving over to number 4 here. This player did not play at all last year, and that is Kristaps Porzingis. So I was debating, should I put him at power forward or center, but he's been playing mostly power forward for the Mavericks this year, so I decided to put him or classify him as a power forward. And the reason I have him in tier 2 is he did struggle to start the year. That is no lie. But in the second half of this year, he was really good. He's a really good rim protector. He's a really good three-point shooter. He's a really good scorer. And over the last 20 games this season, he did average 22 points, 10 rebounds, and shot 36 from 3, 83 from the line. So I think it definitely took him some getting used to up until like kind of mid to late December. And then he turned it on come January, February, and the beginning of March, where he decided to play a lot better, or he just kind of got more of the feel. He got kind of the rust out of the way and got more back to what he was a couple years ago. And this might be a little premature to already have him at number 4, but I just really value his elite shot blocking and his just elite rim protecting defense, and I think he's a very versatile offensive player, and I think maybe that benefits a little bit from playing in the Rick Carlisle system where they know he's a bad post-up player, because maybe in some other systems he would be maybe taking more post-ups and his efficiency would be even worse. But I think Kristaps is a top 4 power forward. I have him at number 4. That might be the biggest debate. If you would have him this high, you might lower him a little bit, but I have him at number 4, wrapping out tier 2. But I also thought about, and honestly, I could lean towards maybe putting Kristaps number 1 in tier 3 and having Pascal Siakam alone in tier 2. That could definitely be something. So let's move on to tier 3 here, where I have 8 players. Now, my number 12 player could be your number 5 player, and I'd be perfectly okay with that. I think everybody in this tier is great in their own right, and they all do little things very well. So number 5 was an all-star this year, and that is Domantas Sabonis. So for the last couple years, people thought that Miles Turner was the premier big man piece in that Pacers system, or that Pacers team, over the counterpartner players. So it was always Turner over Sabonis. If they should trade anyone, it could be Sabonis. Now it might be a little bit different. I still think I could value Turner's spacing, shot blocking, and versatility over Domantas Sabonis' kind of traditional power forward play, where it's rebounding, staying inside, really can't do much outside mid-range, because he did shoot 25% from 3 this year. He did take a 10th tonight, but it wasn't pretty. But he did average 18 points and 12 rebounds. Obviously, his points per game wouldn't be as high if Victor Oladipo was on the floor. Malcolm Brogdon missed some time. Miles Turner missed some time. Jeremy Lamb got hurt. The Pacers had a lot of injuries this year, but Sabonis definitely stepped up. He's still only 23 years old. This was his 4th year in the NBA, and he's been pretty consistent, and he's been getting better for every year of his career. As a rookie, he averaged 5.9 points a night. Second year, he averaged 11.5. Third year, 14. And then this year, his 4th year, he averaged 18.5. Career high in rebounds, career high in assists, 5 assists a night. That is beautiful to see. I don't think he's that bad of a defender either, so I have him as my number 5 power forward. So right behind Sabonis is somebody that has been very good for a long time, and that is Paul Millsap. Now you might be like, Matt, Paul Millsap, really? Like, there's definitely players that you're going to name after him. That's a lot better. And you might agree on that, or you might think that, but I'm personally a fan of defense, and I'm a fan of somebody that's versatile on defense, can space the floor, and can facilitate for his teammates. Now, Paul Millsap isn't the greatest passer in the world. He's been hovering around 2 to 3 assists his career. This is actually the lowest since his 4th year at 1.6 assists a night, but obviously he's playing with a lot more lead guards and Ingles, Mitchell, and Conley. But 12 points, 6 rebounds, I might be like, well, okay, that's all right. He is shooting 44% from 3 on 2.5 attempts a night, but his defense is still elite. This man has been playing elite defense for the last decade now, or just close to elite defense. And you know what? I wanted to give him some credit. I wanted to give him some credit for just being a really good defender. 6 might be a little bit too high, and you know what? I'm okay with if you want to put him at 11 in this tier. I actually bumped the player out of this tier, so it's actually 5 to 11 now, so it's 7 players. And Paul Millsap is going to come out 6. Now, this player was the hardest to rank at 7, and I already have him at number 7. He was a rookie this year. Zion Williamson. So we saw about 19 games from the 19-year-old this year, and he averaged 24 points and 7 rebounds in those games. In per 36-minute numbers, he averaged 28.5 points and about 8 rebounds, 2.5 assists. He was phenomenal on the offensive end. He was borderline unstoppable on the offensive end. His defense wasn't that good, though. Now, this might be a little premature to have Zion already at 7. You might have him maybe at 10, maybe lower than that. Maybe you really can't even rank him yet because he hasn't played that much in the NBA, and that is perfectly fine by me. I honestly thought about not even ranking him at all, but I'm sure you guys wanted to hear where I would have Zion. So I ended up coming up with the 7th spot. He's going to continue to get better as long as he just gets in the shape and he's not going to have these nagging injuries in his career. he's going to be a top 20 player throughout his NBA career. In those 19 games, he definitely played like a top 10 offensive player, top 15 offensive player. So we'll see if his defense will get better. He definitely played better with Derek Favors on the floor than Jackson Hayes, I'll tell you that. But you know, his three-point shooting, I don't think is going to ever be that good in the NBA. I think he's going to be more of an inside threat, but hey, look at Giannis. I'm not going to say he's going to be as good as Giannis, but look at Giannis, who really didn't have a three-point shot up until like last year where he started really attempting them. I mean, he still isn't really that lethal from three. Teams will still leave him open, so I think Zion is still heading in the right direction. He's 7 this year. He might be 4 next year. So, moving on to number 8 is a player from the 2018 draft class, and that is Jaren Jackson Jr. So, the big knock on Jaren Jackson in his rookie year was his foul trouble. He averaged about 3.8 fouls a night. He fouled out a lot. This year hasn't gotten better. It's 4.1 fouls a night, but he's definitely gotten better, I think, on both ends. You know, his defense was a little lackluster in the beginning of the year. It looked like, okay, maybe he's regressing a little bit from defense from last year, but I think it's picked it up. He's averaging about 17 points, 5 rebounds this year, shot 40% from 3. You have a power forward. I'm classifying him as a power forward, even though I think Basketball Reference does have him as a center. But, you know, Valanciunas is their center. He mainly plays a power forward. And you know what? Maybe in a team you would like to have him at your center position, but I just don't think he's a good enough rebounder. But he's just a guy that can space the floor. He shot 40% from 3 this year on 6.5 attempts a night. And that is for someone that is 6'11". That is incredible. Jaren Jackson Jr. is going to turn it into just one of the more versatile players in the NBA. I know I've said that word a lot today, but that's kind of what you want from your power forwards. Versatile. If they can be versatile on both ends, like a Jaren Jackson Jr., like a Pascal Siakam, like a Giannis Antetokounmpo, you're going to be in a really good position. So Jaren Jackson Jr. is number 8. Moving over to number 9 is somebody that was having an all-defensive type season and then unfortunately got hurt. This was his 3rd year in the NBA, and that was Jonathan Isaac. He did play 32 games this year before getting hurt. Now, Isaac was playing incredible on the defensive side. He was looking like that he could maybe get some Defensive Player of the Year votes. He might have been on all defensive first team. He had a career high in field goal attempts this year with about over 10 a night. He did average 12 points, 7 rebounds, a steal and a half, 2.5 blocks this year. He had shot 46 from the field, 33 from 3. If he can maybe get into like that 34-35% three-point shooter, taking about 2 to 3 a night, he's going to be lethal from there. He's so lengthy on offense and on defense. He can guard all 5 positions on defense. Maybe not as point guards, like as he guards the wings and the fours, but he's just incredible on the defensive end. He's just got so much length that he just gets in the passing lanes. He's fast. He's good in transition. He's a solid ball handler. He's going to come in as my number 9 power forward. Now, number 10 is a player of the Utah Jazz, and that is Bojan Bogdanovic. So Bojan Bogdanovic is about to turn 31 years old in 3 days. But you know what? Coming over from the Pacers this year, he is having a career year. He has been stepping up for the Jazz this year because kind of Mike Conley hasn't been playing that good. They've had their injuries, or their fair share of injuries, and he's averaging 20 points per game in a career high 15 field goal attempts a night. He's shooting 41% from 3 on 7.5 attempts a night, and he has a career high in usage at 26%. He's not a world beater defender. He's nothing crazy on the defensive side of the ball, but his offense has been consistent enough for the last 3 years where I'm going to have him as a top 10 power forward. He's going to come in at number 10 on my list. Moving over here to the last player in tier 3, number 11, is somebody I debated putting over Bojan, but I ended up putting him at 11 just because he's a little bit younger and he's not a good defender, but he's a really good offensive talent, and that is John Collins. John Collins this year, if the season ended in 41 games, so half his season because he did get suspended, which I'm gonna drop him a little bit for that. I'm gonna drop that in my rankings if he's not reliable to be on the floor. He had injuries a little bit this year, but he did end up playing 41 games, and he averaged 22 points, 10 rebounds, and shot 40% in those games. He's a really, really good offensive player. He's a good rebounder. He's good at scoring inside, and like I said, he shot 40% from 3 on 3.5 attempts a night. That's pretty good volume where you could be like, all right, maybe he's a good three-point shooter in the NBA. His defense, on the other hand, isn't as good. His footwork isn't great. He's a little bit weak inside on stronger bigs, and he's not as quick on that end as well. His defense definitely needs to improve if he wants to be like a top 5 power forward, a great player on both ends. But you know what? He's probably going to get that rookie max extension at the start of next year. So, John Collins is going to come in at number 11, and that's going to wrap out Tier 3. So, Tier 1, we had 1 Giannis Antetokounmpo, 2 Anthony Davis. Tier 2, we had number 3 Pascal Siakam, 4 Kristaps Porzingis, and tier 3, I did have 7 guys: 5 Domantas Sabonis, 6 Paul Millsap, 7 Zion Williamson, 8 Jaren Jackson Jr., 9 Jonathan Isaac, 10 Bojan Bogdanovic, 11 John Collins. So let's get into tier 4 here, where I have 8 guys, 12 to 19. So moving on to tier 4 now. So number 12 is Blake Griffin. Now Blake Griffin, I didn't want to put him this low, but it looks like his career is not heading in the right direction. He was probably a top 10 player last year and a top 3 power forward, maybe behind AD and Giannis, but he was probably, he was definitely better than Pascal Siakam last year, definitely. He averaged 24.5 points, he shot 46% from the field, 36 from 3 on 7 attempts a night, but this year, he only played 18 games, unfortunately. He didn't look great in them. He averaged 35% from the field, 24% from 3. He's coming off a major knee injury that there's no timetable yet for his return even. I mean, I'm sure he's just obviously not going to play this year. Maybe he'll play at the start of next year's season. Who knows when that will be. But a knee injury for a 30-year-old that's had career injury past, not great. Because in 2017-18, he did only play 58 games. 2015-16, he played 35. He didn't even play his rookie year due to a knee injury. He's 30 years old. I don't think he's getting any better, unfortunately. So I have him as low as 12. Moving on to is Jonathan Isaac's teammate that is going to come in here at 13. And he played more small forward this year, but I think he's mainly a power forward, and I think that's where his position is in the NBA. I think that's where he's best at, but unfortunately, the Magic do have 2 really good power forwards. So he starts at the 3, and that is Aaron Gordon, who is coming off his career low in points per game in 3 years. He did shoot 43% from the field, his lowest in his career, and I mean, he started off the year really poor. He did not shoot well whatsoever. His defense wasn't great. His scoring inside wasn't great. He's still a solid rebounder and a good passer and a good playmaker. And people compare him to Draymond Green, that if he played in the right system where he can kind of be the lead ball handler, he can average close to maybe 13 points a night, 9 rebounds, 7 assists. And he's going to play really good defense for you, as he's been for most of his career. I just think we need to see him as a true 4, and I would really like to see a team trade for him in the offseason. Maybe it's a team like Phoenix, maybe it's a team like New York, or maybe it's a team that trades maybe Karis LeVert, like the Nets, for Aaron Gordon. That's been rumored a little bit, but we'll see. I have him at 13. Moving over to 14 is somebody that is going to be a unrestricted free agent this summer, and that is Montrezl Harrell. Montrezl Harrell is coming off a career year after kind of breaking out a little bit last year. He did play solid in his first year as a Clipper, but he's averaged over 16 points per game in his last 2 seasons. He's a high motor guy. He's a good defender. He's pretty much unstoppable when he when he gets to shoot it inside, or it's just when he's inside in general. And this dude plays like he's 7 foot tall and he's only 6'7". There's some shooting guards in the NBA that are 6'7", or some small forwards. So this dude is playing some power forward. He's also playing some center technically off the bench. I have him in at a power forward because I think that's where he's best at, just kind of who he guards on defense. I don't think he's great at guarding centers, but I think he is passable and serviceable at it. But I have him at power forward. You might have him as the center, and that's what we can disagree on. And he's going to come in at number 14 for me. Moving over to 15 is a former LA Clipper, and that is Danilo Gallinari. Now, Gallinari has been consistent for the last 7 years, basically. He's 31 years old this year, and he's playing just as good as he played last year for the Clippers. He's a stretch 4. He shot 41% from 3 this year on 7 attempts a night, like he shot 43% last year on 5.5 attempts a night. He's continuing to take more threes. He's still a lethal offensive threat. Not great on the defensive end, but he's going to score inside. He can shoot the ball. He can shoot off the dribble. He can just play off the dribble in general, and you can see, like, a lot of good teams, like Portland, or they're a solid team in Miami, they wanted to go out and get Gallinari because he's still a really good NBA player. He's going to come in at 15. Moving over to 16 here is Kevin Love, who didn't really play much this year. He was hurt, and he just really wasn't happy playing for John Beilein and just kind of the Cavs in general. I mean, I guess I'm a little bit wrong there. He did play 56 games, so I want to correct myself. Last year, he didn't play as much. He only played 22 games because he did get hurt at the start of the year. But Kevin Love definitely kind of revived his value in the NBA. He averaged 17.5 points this year, 37 from 3, 45 from the field, showing that he's not a horrible defender. He's still a really good rebounder as well, and he can space the floor. And if he wasn't making 30 mil a year or 28 mil a year, and let's say he was making 20 mil a year or 18 mil a year, kind of in that Gallo range, teams would be coughing up first round picks for Kevin Love. It's just that he's making so much money, and he's 31 years old, that it's like, do you want to cough up a first for that contract and somebody on that age that hasn't shown to be that durable really ever in his career or since his rookie year? He's only played 75 plus games 4 times, and he hasn't done it since 2015-16. So, I mean, it would be unfair to say he didn't do it this year because the season did get cut short. But Kevin Love is going to come in at number 16 for me. Now, number 17 is a player you might be like, all right, maybe he should have been top 10, but you have him really low. This year was bad for him, and that is Draymond Green. So Draymond Green, I thought, was a borderline top 10 player throughout kind of that 3-4 year stretch from the Warriors finals from 2014, 15, 15, 16, 16, 17, and 17, 18. He was just an amazing player on both sides of the ball. He was a guy that can kind of be the lead ball handler for them when they needed him to be. He was averaging 7 assists for 3 years straight. He was playing elite defense. He, is a 2-time Defensive Player of the Award winner, or at least 1 time. Yeah, no, just 1 time. He was 2016-17 Defensive Player of the Year. He came in the top 3 a couple times. He was a versatile player, could shoot the 3 solid, he wasn't too bad, he wasn't kind of like a negative from there, but this year, it was bad. He wasn't as good on the defensive end. Maybe he just wasn't trying, obviously, because the Warriors were just bad to begin with, and they were just destined to not be good this year, because Steph got hurt in Game 3, Clay was obviously hurt, D'Lo really didn't fit all that well, and the rest of the roster was like a G League team, so it's alright, obviously, he wasn't going to really try as much as he was the previous seasons, and maybe you can give him a year off. I'll drop him a little bit, and I have him at 17. Going into this year, I probably had him top 10, so he has dropped a little bit from this year. 2 more players in this tier, somebody that's also dropped from this tier that was borderline top 10, and I have him here at 18. He was mainly a center the last couple years, but this year he's been playing as a power forward next to Joel Embiid, and that is Al Horford. I'm going to have listed as a power forward because that's what he's been playing, and I think that's what he's kind of been viewed at for this year, and at least I think mainly in his career. I mean, he always played as the center alongside Paul Millsap, and he did play the center position in Boston, but this year he is a power forward, and that's what he's going to be for the foreseeable future as long as he's playing next to Joel Embiid, because they're not going to make Joel Embiid the 4. And Horford is definitely taking a step back this year. I mean, he's still been what he's been on offense, taking a little bit of a step back there. Not as good as a 3-point shooter as he was in Boston in his late Atlanta days, and just overall from the field, he hasn't been as efficient. It's definitely looking like he's taking a step back. I mean, he is 33 for crying out loud. I don't know what Elton Brand thought they were getting when they gave him 28 mil, 27.5, 27, and then 26.5, 4-year deal worth 109 million. I really didn't know what they thought they were going to get. Besides kind of what we got from this year, maybe he was going to resemble a little bit from his first couple years in Boston, or maybe last year in Boston where he was really solid. Yes, but he's going to regress, man. He's 33 years old. Look at the same career Marc Gasol is having. It's not going to be the same. You need him to do you're going to have to ask him to do a lot less than what he was doing in previous years. So he's going to come in at 18 for me. And then number 19 is a player that I really thought was going to make an all-star team this year. And the system just sucked for him, and he got hurt, and that's Larry Markkinen. So Markkinen is going to come in at the end of tier 4 here. At number 19, career low, 14.7 points a night. He shot 34% from 3, 43% from the field, 6.3 rebounds a night for someone that's 7 foot. He was not good this year. I just don't think it's the system. I just don't think Borland's system really works out well for Larry Markkinen. He needs to kind of space the floor, work well as a pick and roll guy, a pick and pop guy. He just really didn't do as much. It's kind of because we saw a lot of Zach LaVine and a lot of Kobe White in Chicago this year, and I just thought maybe it should have been a little bit more Larry Markkinen. I honestly think he can be the best player on that team. I honestly think if he really got the same amount of attempts or just the same amount of volume as Zach LaVine, he could be a better player. And I honestly think he is a better player, or he at least has better talent than Zach LaVine, because I think he can also be not an extreme negative on defense, but we're going to have to see that from him, and he's going to come in at 19 on my list. So that is tier 4. Player 12 was Blake Griffin, or power forward 12. Power forward 13 was Aaron Gordon. 14, Montrezl Harrell. 15, Danilo Gallinari, 16, Kevin Love, 17, Draymond Green, 18, Al Horford, and 19, Larry Markkinen. So tier 5 does have 11 players, 20 through 30. So this is kind of the tier that was definitely the hardest to rank for me. It's just we're just putting guys in here because I had 10 honorable mentions that we'll get to in a little bit. But yeah, so let's just get into this, I guess. So number 20 was PJ Tucker. He's been pretty much a really good, or a really solid 3-point shooter for the Rockets, a really good defender. You might want to classify him as a center now due to him kind of playing in that small ball Rockets team, but he's been consistent for the last couple of years. He's been really good on the defensive side of the ball, an all defensive caliber player. He's been a reliable 3-point shooter. He's coming in at number 20. Number 21, Nemanja Bjelica. He's been a really good offensive player for the Sacramento Kings also over the last couple of years. He's getting a little bit up there in age. I believe he will be a free agent this summer. Yep, I'm pretty sure he will be. And he's just a really good offensive player. He's good at scoring inside. He's a really good 3-point shooter. He's just a good long-range shooter in general. And his offense alone, it's been consistent. He's going to come in at 21. Number 22 is Julius Randle. Oh, do I really want to talk about Julius Randle? I guess I have to. So Julius Randle is good if he's taking 10 shots a night. Now, Julius Randle, if you watch the Knicks, he's had the highest usage, taking the most shots this year. He wants to be Draymond Green, or he wants to be LeBron James. He wants to be the point forward. He dribbles into the paint, spin move, turnover, spin move, bad pass, spin move, wild shot, miss. He scores, around 18 points a night, but look at the shot attempts. He's a good rebounder, yes. His defense stinks. He's not motivated on that end at all. If he maybe makes one defensive play, he will take the next 6 off. He doesn't try when he turns it over as well. He's not very good, and I wanted to put him a little bit lower. And maybe it's because of the role he's playing. Maybe if it was a more disciplined system, he would be a lot higher, because maybe his role wouldn't be as expanded as it is with the Knicks. But it's also bad coaching with Mike Miller, David Fizdale, that constantly let him be the number one, and he's just not good enough to be it. And it's hurting his stock, and I think it's hurting what people think as he is, or as him as a player. So moving over to 23, Christian Wood, who's actually been playing pretty well at the end of the year this year. When they traded Andre Drummond, they kind of moved forward with, all right, let's see what this kid can do. He's 24 years old. He's been cut twice this year, I believe by Milwaukee and by the Pels, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but he's been really good this year. He's been a good three-point shooter. He's been a good rebounder. He's just been a good overall offensive player. I don't know if his defense is going to be good, though. He didn't look great on that side of the ball, but you know what? If he's going to be what he's going to be on the offensive end, he could definitely be a number 2 center on a good team. He's going to come in at number 23. He'll get a nice payday. Number 24 is Marvin Bagley III. Marvin Bagley might have the most disappointing sophomore year we have seen, or just one of the more disappointing years this year in general. People thought, all right, he was taking over Luka Doncic. Let's see what he could do this year. He was also taking over Jaren Jackson Jr., who I had ranked 8th, so Bagley's coming at 24. He was the second overall pick in the 2018 draft. He wasn't terrible last year, but people didn't know if he was a 5 or a 4. He came in as the 4 this year because they got Dwayne Dedmon. They also signed Rashawn Holmes, and he was hurt for most of the year. It was flat out disappointing. I think he's an incredibly talented offensive player in the NBA. I don't know how well his defense is going to be. It hasn't been good from what we've seen, but we can't see him improve or just get better or just see what he is if he can't play. He got hurt this year. It sucks. He started off the year with an injury, came back, got hurt again, and it just sucks. He's coming in at number 24. Number 25 is someone that's been pretty reliable for the last couple of years, and that is Dario Saric. I think he's definitely heading down on this list rather than up, but you know what? He's been a pretty solid playmaker, not a great defender, but a smart basketball player, a solid offensive player, a good passer. He's coming in at 25. Number 26 is someone that's definitely rose in the top 30 for me, and that is Maxi Kleber of the Dallas Mavericks, who's turned into a nice three-point shooter for them, or just a kind of a nice guy that they could plug and play with Luka Doncic, who's actually really good on the floor with Luka Doncic, and kind of know his role, and he plays into the system in Dallas, and he does a good job there, and that's going to get you number 26 on my list. Number 27 is Thaddeus Young, who's definitely heading down on this list. His time in Indiana definitely made him a top 22 power forward in the NBA, but this year in Chicago, it really didn't look that good from him, and maybe it just seemed he was disinterested playing in that team that had a lot of problems, maybe some locker room issues, and he just didn't want to be the leader, but I know he's a good character. He's going to come in at number 27. Number 28 is somebody that I thought was going to have a really good year, Zach Collins. He got hurt, unfortunately. The dude is a really good defensive player. He's a smart offensive player. He knows his strengths. He knows his weaknesses. He's not going to shoot you out of games. He's not going to take bad shots. He's a good defender, like I said. He's a good post defender. I like him on the perimeter, guarding kind of maybe a little bit quicker wings, but not too quick. I wouldn't feel comfortable him guarding like a Trae Young or a Bradley Beal. But you know what? If he's out there guarding like a Harrison Barnes, I'm okay with that. And then he's going to come in at 28. And then 29 is Rui Hachimura, who was a rookie this year for the Washington Wizards. He definitely had his ups and downs. Maybe the downs are mainly part of his such high volume being as a rookie. Maybe he wasn't ready for that, but I think he's honestly better than some people think he is, and I think he was a top 10 rookie this year, and he was definitely worth a top 10 pick in the draft so far, which is not looking like a great draft from 2019, and he's coming in at 29. And number 30 is somebody I probably had top 25 going into the year, and that is Jeremy Grant. He's still a good defender. His offense just wasn't that good. It's really looking like he wasn't worth the first round pick that Denver gave up. I'm sure they're going to try to want to bring him back. He does have a player option that I'm sure he's going to opt out from, and it was really hard to debate 28 through 30 or 29 and 30. Rui Hachimura and Jeremy Grant. I subbed like them out for like 5 guys, and I ultimately decided on 29 being Hachimura, 30 being Jeremy Grant. So I'll go through tier 5 once again. I know I went through that pretty quickly, and then we'll get into the honorable mentions. So 20 was PJ Tucker, 21 Namaja Bielitsa, 22 Julius Randle, 23 Christian Wood, 24 Marvin Bagley III, 25 Dario Saric, 26 Maxi Kleber, 27 Thaddeus Young, 28 Zach Collins, 29 Rui Hachimura, and 30 Jeremy Grant. So let's get into like my 100 honorable mentions. So I have actually 10 honorable mentions that I'd be perfectly okay if you threw into tier 5. They're all good in their own right, and I think they definitely deserve some love. So One of them is PJ Washington of the Charlotte Hornets. Then we got Chris Boucher of the Toronto Raptors, Carmelo Anthony of the Portland Trailblazers, Nicola Melli of the New Orleans Pelicans, Ersan Ilyasova of the Milwaukee Bucks, Larry Nance Jr. of the Cleveland Cavaliers, Kelly Olynyk of the Miami Heat, Eric Paschall of the Golden State Warriors, Bobby Portis of the New York Knicks, but I just wanted to just mention his name, and then Markieff Morris of the LA Lakers. So that is going to wrap out my top 30 power forwards in the NBA. If you are on YouTube or you're listening on YouTube, you can let me know with a comment below what you agreed with, what you disagreed with. I know you guys will definitely have some disagreements. And then on Apple Pod, if you can just leave a rating or drop a review, I could really appreciate that. And just hit that follow button if you're on Spotify. So thank you all for listening. I really appreciate it. Like always, next week will be my top 30 centers in the NBA, and I'll see you guys then.